March 29th, 2013, from the stylish high-tech underground studios of Ribbit Media in Warwick, Rhode Island, this is NewsUndies. For March 29th, 2013, this is NewsUndies, all the news that shouldn't be news. I'm Paul Torville with these headlines. So long, Windows Phone, we hardly knew ye. Or wanted to. History Channel's The Bible includes an actor who almost looks nothing more like Barack Obama than he looks like me, playing Satan. The news media melts down. Yeah, integrity. I know we've got it around here somewhere. I'm lousy with integrity. BBC reports Nixon was a criminal and Johnson was kind of a dick. Thanks, BBC. Always first on the scene. American Atheist calls out Rick Perry on incompetence and professional impotence. Hooray! CNN reports Yoga Pants recall! No, really. Why are you laughing? This is serious! Major Windows 8 update? Wait, didn't that just come out? Kentucky Religious Freedom Bill proposes to excuse people from obeying the law on religious grounds. It passed the legislature, was vetoed by the governor, and is back before the legislature to see if they can override the veto. Seriously? You don't get to ignore the law because you're gullible. With all the fiscal cliffs and sequesters and debt ceiling fights over the last few months, it's easy to lose sight of the accelerated bulging of the north slope of Mount St. National Debt. Fortunately, Paul Torville is here to point it out in this edition of Your Money.
The national debt really is exactly what it sounds like. It's the sum total of all the money borrowed by the federal government and any unpaid interest. The annual federal budget deficit, as well as any other spending, is added on top of the debt each year. The steep growth of the national debt, particularly in the last 30 or 40 years, has come largely from massive increases in government spending, coupled with stunning and counterintuitive reductions in the tax rates, particularly of the people making the most money. If time really is money, then we are literally living on borrowed time. The way the federal government is borrowing now, it's fairly clear there's no plan in place for paying down the debt, and no plan for making a plan. Personally, I think that borrowing without the intent of paying back the principal is borrowing in bad faith. Eventually, creditors will wake up to this fact and stop lending. I would. I'm Paul Torville, and this was Your Money.
Good to know. Stick around, coming up, can a nation be bipolar? And when is reality not reality?
Have you been injured in an accident, or can you pretend to have been? If so, we may be entitled to 40% of any settlement you receive. We're the law offices of Angry, Bitter, Vindictive, and Rosenblatt, and we've spent over half a century profiting from the pain and suffering of people who, in some cases, didn't even know they were suffering or in pain. At Angry, Bitter, Vindictive, and Rosenblatt, our attorneys have the skills and experience necessary to turn almost any activity into billable hours, and that means you can pay us more. Angry, Bitter, Vindictive, and Rosenblatt, specializing in personal injury, family law, product liability claims, and almost any other area where emotion weighs more than evidence. Angry, Bitter, Vindictive, and Rosenblatt, getting richer off your mild discomfort since 1955.
March Madness? North Korea. Mere weeks after meeting with Ambassador from the Andromeda Galaxy, Dennis Rodman, telling him to pass along the message, "Call me maybe," to President Obama, current North Korean leader Kim Jong-un has started threatening everyone and everything within 13,000 miles of Pyongyang, which, in case you were not aware, amounts to just about everything on the planet. Of course, so far, North Korea has not exactly demonstrated what one might call proficiency with rockets. The nation has threatened South Korea, Japan, and the continental United States. The leadership of North Korea has to know that if it picks a nuclear fight with the United States, they stand a very good chance of being erased. North Korea's military-first policy has dragged the bulk of the nation's 25 million citizens into desperate, hopeless poverty, and its bizarre cult of personality revolving around the dear leader, Kim Il-sung, the great leader, Kim Jong-il, and now the great successor, Kim Jong-un, leaves little opportunity for hope that North Korea will voluntarily deviate from its current course. But when you're rocking out to the sound of Wang Jae-san Light Music Band and or Panchanbo Electronic Ensemble, it's hard not to keep a positive attitude. There is a number of TV channels which got their start devoted to certain themes, like the History Channel, MTV, and the Learning Channel, which appear to have, how to put this pleasantly, lost their way. Is this good? Here are Pig and Sheep with their thoughts.
Of course it is. Without knowing how fake New Jersey Italian 20-somethings on a fake permanent vacation behave when they're saturated with alcohol and micromanaged by a production company, how else could I possibly find out how well Pat Benatar can lip-sync to a latest hit single? Something has been lost. The cheap production and base appeal of so-called reality TV, coupled with the commercial pandering to cult followings and woo belief, has resulted in programming on many of these networks devolving into 43-minute doses of video happy pills. The History Channel has shows about ancient aliens and Bigfoot hunters. This is not history. This is superstitious conjectural nonsense. The Learning Channel, which, like Kentucky Fried Chicken, changed its name to just its initials in order to avoid the baggage that the middle name carries, has such intellectual feasts as, quote, Toddlers in Tiaras, and pointless exploitation train wreck, Here Comes Honey Boo Boo. Apart from the fact that these channels rarely have anything good on, they leverage their names and past reputations to market vacuous drivel as though it lived up to the channel's former standards and reputation. That's the move of a businessman, not someone interested in conveying history or learning.
That's what Pig and Sheep think. What are your thoughts? Email them to ovcomments@newsundies.com. Stay tuned. Still to come. Can't seem to find the time. It's the sudden stop at the end. Charlton Heston's foot. And going to the courthouse to get married.
You'll notice that when you watch NewsUndies, I'm always wearing a shirt from the Ursus Pacificus Kitsch Cave. Well, now you can too. You can help support NewsUndies by going to the Ursus Pacificus Kitsch Cave and getting some kitsch.
Sumly. And now, here's Moose Weintraub with the Sports Half Minute.
Weintraub Sports Half Minute. It's a whole half minute of sports. 30 seconds of sports. Who's Weintraub Sports Half Minute?
This is your Sports Half Minute. I'm Moose Weintraub. Dateline Moab, Utah. Extreme sports death. Well, yeah. What'd you expect?
Weintraub Sports Half Minute.
Thanks, Moose. Always a great report from Moose. As the gun rights, gun restrictions vortex eats its own tail and open-minded rational discussion circles the drain, here are a few bits of shrapnel I recently removed from my leg. Gun safety. Step 1. Don't commit suicide in front of kids at a gun safety demonstration. Brian J. Perry did, and if he hadn't died as a result of the self-inflicted contact gunshot wound to his head, he'd probably have suffered a significant decline in popularity. Jim Carrey's Cold Dead Hand music video causes Fox News to resort to hyperbole and ad hominem attacks rather than facts. That must have been one hell of a video. Actually, I thought the Charlton Heston bit was pretty funny. Dear Fox News, fact, Heston was overrated at the peak of his career. Accept it. And finally, and I do mean finally, we all saw this coming, didn't we? Supreme Court finally looks at marriage equality. Release the woo! There are 2 cases before the SCOTUS related to marriage equality, and depending on how the court rules, either could make state and federal bans on same-sex marriages unconstitutional. The first case is an attempt by the folks who pushed Prop 8 before the California electorate to overturn a state appellate court ruling which invalidated the proposition as in violation of the state's constitution, a ruling which was upheld by California's Supreme Court. So, to be clear, the plaintiffs want Prop 8 to be restored, and Prop 8 made gay marriage illegal. Does that make any sense? I don't know. The other case challenges the 1996 Defense of Marriage Act, or DOMA, which defines marriage as between one man and one woman at the federal level and denies the legal, tax, survivorship, and other benefits to same-sex couples. This is being challenged on the grounds that DOMA violates the Equal Protection Clause of the 14th Amendment to the Constitution. As expected, conservative Christians are worked up into a rabid lather, and media outlets like Fox News and the Excellence in Broadcasting Network are flinging flecks of foam in every direction, trying to sway public opinion away from not interfering in the private lives of people who care about each other and conferring on them the benefits that such caring brings so many others. Fine example, Rush Limbaugh on his radio program calls marriage equality the lip of the slippery slope to pedophilia. I'm afraid I don't see anything close to a direct downhill path there. Does this involve quantum tunneling? Seems like it would involve being picked up by helicopter on the gay marriage slope and airlifted to, for example, the Catholic clergy slope, which is in a totally different mountain range on a completely different continent. And then there's this deluded douchebag. Fox News radio host Todd Starnes has proclaimed that if marriage equality wins the day, there will be persecuted Christians. Really, Todd? Do you have any idea what persecuted means? Are we talking about something on the order of the Roman persecution of Christians, the Nazi persecution of Jews, the majority persecution of minorities, the nativist persecution of immigrants, the political persecution of commies, the Christian persecution of LGBTs? Just trying to get a handle on what to expect. I think Todd may be experiencing a word block when he talks about Christian persecution. The word you're searching for there, Todd, is complex. Well, that's all for this edition of NewsUndies. If you see news that shouldn't be news, you can submit your story tips online at newsundies.com. NewsUndies is a weekly show. We'll be back on Friday, April 5th with fresh undies. Don't forget to subscribe to us on YouTube, like us on Facebook, follow us on Twitter, ignore us on MySpace, tell your friends, and buy NewsUndies Kitsch. Thanks for watching. For all of us here at NewsUndies, until next time, I'm Paul Torville. After that, I might be misunderstanding the way the Supreme Court works. And its bizarre cult of personality revolving around the dear leader, Kim Il-sung, son of a biscuit.